What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer, bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we'll be talking about the Bitcoin price chart, which had a little bit of a pop there up to about $107,000 as the XRP price chart shoots its way back up to $2.26. Still just humming along as the U.S. stock market gets ready to open for the week, where we have the entire initial geopolitical event taken back as markets are getting ready to open for both the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ, while the Bitcoin dominance still continues its sideways upward grinding churn, but still remaining in that bearish territory there for the relative strength index, seeing if we're going to get something to move here pretty soon. Over the last several weeks, of course, we've just been sitting here watching this thing play out. It's really been months working our way to get back to that. But of course, the expectation has just been that it's going to be a bumpy road throughout all of this and that we're just working on an ABC correction. Still likely to see that C leg come in here at some point. We've got, of course, 3 separate examples up in here of what happens, where you see precisely this happen, where you have the high set, it attempts to set a new high, high set, attempts to set a new high, high set, attempts to set a new high, high set, attempts to set a new high, and then in every single case, just whips its way back up, leaving people in the dust, back up to the highs, and then always sets in the ABC correction. You tired hearing about that yet? It is what it is. This is what usually ends up happening in here in these types of environments, and that's just what we're working with right now. Unfortunate thing is, it appears, we're much further along in this thing than we have been over the weeks past. One of the nice things is XRP, of course, has gotten itself a nice little pop in here, which seems like that by the time that ends up coming in here for Bitcoin, whether or not we're just going to eventually capitulate back down to these lows during an event like that and then put the moon boots on for things to kick off and go. Now, one of the things that I find interesting is what happened back in November of last year before XRP took off is that we actually saw a lot of activity happening on chain for XRP. Really, you had First Ledger come out, you had meme coins really picking up in there, and people just started being way more active on chain. We saw the AMM pools really picking up back there in late October. Then by November, things took off. And of course, we went into just full-blown insanity in here in the AMM pools. When the price of XRP had already really ripped up. And so I'm over here on XP Market using this. I'm not sponsored by them, but they provide awesome free resources over here. And we don't have anything crazy happening over in here when it comes to like AMM pools picking up. But, there's been a little breathe of life into it. Of course, with the discussions over there with Brad Garlinghouse, a lot of those charts are looking interesting. It's one of these things I'm really paying attention to. Like I mentioned back in October and November, I did very well in the meme coins. I've really taken a big step back from it while it's just kind of been absolutely dead in here. Right? Meme coins are like a casino. Don't sit there thinking you're making some killer investment and promises of utility on this stuff. It's all trash. But if you know how to play the game, it can be pretty lucrative. Right? There was some life breathed in there in the AMMs. I'm keeping a close eye on this because I'm going to speculate that we're actually going to see this pick up pretty soon. And when we do, we know that was also one of those positive signs before the prices really started kicking off. Once we actually started seeing retail sentiment starting to feel a little bit more risky. So while there's not a whole lot to read from this right now, I just wanted to say it's got my attention right now. And just for a reminder of what happened last time, right back on October 27th, I'm posting about it. XRP AMM volume explosion. Daily volumes were 40x what they were a week ago. October 27th is way over here. That was just 2 weeks before the major rally kicked off, and XRP being one of the stronger coins and still sustaining that through everything that has happened for the last 6 months. Right. Don't let a Bitcoin maxi know that over the course of the last year, XRP's been one of the top performers from the top 50 with 324% returns over the last 12 months. So while there's no super strong evidence of things happening, I'm seeing early things that have my interest. And so I'm only planting a seed today to say, hey, if things pick up, you may see me reference back to this and say, hey, remember we kind of planted the seed about that. If these volumes start to suddenly explode or something like that, it shows renewed strength of people using the XRP ledger for activity, retail interest, it being a chosen chain to participate on, and a precursor to what has happened historically. So, to get away from the repetitiveness of just talking about an ABC correction in here or XRP just meandering sideways in here, what were some of those early precursors when things started rampaging last time? while we had to have Bitcoin set up, but there were also some signatures happening on chain with XRP as well. So we'll just bring that up again sometime in the future. Otherwise, I do think we're just in the final phases of accumulation in here, but final phases being, a pretty big area. Yesterday morning, I put out a newsletter. It's talking about, how far along we could be in the whole thing. And, if you just try to look at, the structure of the entire thing in here, and just tried to say scaling wise, how far along is it? It's like the whole thing. It's like 82% of the way completed. If you moved at that same velocity in there, and I get it, there's no such thing as team sideways. We joke about that, but right, I mean, what if you kind of played along like this, right? And then eventually, right, we rock and roll. Oh, this is just going to cause a lot of pain in here going sideways, a lot of boredom. Nobody wants team sideways. It's like, dude, just tell me what to do, man. Do I buy? Do I sell? If I sell, I want the price to go down so I can buy cheaper. If I buy, I want the price to go up so I'm in profit. But in the end, in these environments, a lot of times we just kind of drift sideways for a while, and that doesn't please anybody. So what I keep trying to do is step away from that, short-term stuff and understanding it and being like, yeah, it's probably going to happen in here. But where does the big picture take us once we get beyond those things? And the big picture is not too shabby, right? But we've just kind of got to get through this thing and let team sideways have their day. And so it's like, oh, we're talking about meme coins, we're talking about AMM pools and things like that. Well, it's going to be like, if we get that environment to happen over there for Bitcoin and this thing is still just drifting sideways in here, the thing that people just care far less about than price targets is more of when is it going to happen? I get asked all the fanciest of questions that you could possibly imagine. Even when I was in Vegas, I got all of them. My wife commented on it when we get back to the hotel room. She's like, did you pick up on that one? That intricate when moon question that you got, where I won't even recognize it that somebody asked when moon. The best ways I can answer that of saying I can look at these charts and I can see these dynamics and I can say, well, when moon's probably going to happen once this thing is wrapped up and once it gets to a bull flag and breaks out. Is that going to happen in a week, 2 weeks, 4 weeks? I don't know. I can look at the velocity at which we've moved at so far and the structural behaviors of them and say, well, it seems where we're located at, we're probably somewhere around right here. Seems with where we're located at, we're probably somewhere around right here. If that were the case, then we'd be about 82% of the way done. That lands you somewhere in July for something to take off, late July. I'm careful to the guy who's holding on to that with extreme dependence, because I know I'll go into markets in the morning and someone will say, do you still think late July? It's not me thinking. I'm just showing you. If you moved at that velocity, that's where it would land. Does it seem reasonable? We could have this ABC correction wrapped up sometime here in June and be trying to work on that in late July. It seems completely reasonable to me that we could move at that velocity and be there by July, that you could be wrapped up in there. But we know we needed to get to that type of structural environment to show up and to say, hey, it looks like it's ready to pop out of here. What are some signs that we've seen before to say it's like right around the corner? One, of course, the Russell 2000 at the same time, but an early precursor as well for XRP, and the strength of XRP came from the AMMs at the same time. So I'm not pointing to this to say entire dependence is on this and that meme coin volumes are going to be the thing that matter the most, but to say that if something like that starts to emerge again, or something like that starts to emerge again, those have been precursors. So just a little food for thought as we continue in the sideways drift and Team Sideways has their day. I fully believe Team Up will be the ultimate champion, but our waiting game continues. The thing that tells you that it's a lot closer than further away is the retail sentiment deterioration. I've touched on this topic for the last couple of weeks, and we've seen the sentiment completely reset itself. We see that in markets in the morning numbers. We see that on Google Trends. We see that on Coinbase app downloads. I see that on my backend data, AMM volumes. It takes us getting to where retail sentiment has gotten to these levels for things to be able to take off and go. So it's just another signature of us getting much closer to the end than this just being the beginning. And when I mean end, I mean the end of this range where retail sentiment remained all optimistic until right there. All metrics show it. The tariff stuff totally washed people out. Loss of interest in markets, loss of faith. And now we've had a full resetting. And it always takes those resets before the big ramp ups happen again. And we've had the full reset. I can't imagine there having to be any more resetting, except for maybe like one more fear event, a VIX spike, something like that, but no like drawn out period. It's been fully reset already. And for those who have been with the channel for a long time, you've heard me tell stories, just experience stories throughout crypto. And this one right in here, this one's from back in 2017. This is the big run up in April and May, and then the correction of June and July of 2017. And I've told the stories of how I got wrong-footed in this correction right here. I've probably told that story a dozen times on the YouTube channel, that this is exactly where I got wrong-footed in the market and took a big valuable lesson, that I sold the market in this breakdown thinking I was a genius as the price continued to go down and down and down. And then the price reversed. And when it reversed, I did not think it was going to be able to continue going and that it still would turn over on itself and reject. But instead, the price broke out and got all the way up in here. And I got fully wrong-footed on my Bitcoin bag in this 2017 correction. And that is the exact type of correction that we've had here in the market. And it seems that is exactly what happened to retail. And I remember in here, there was a sense of hope and there were some bad trades that I took in here. And then this thing fell. And then there became all the fear all over again. I was like, oh gosh, you can't be kidding me. I totally sold the low. I got back in at the high. Here it is falling back down. I knew it the whole time. I should have never touched this thing. Getting back up in here, it falls back down. Then it shoots up and it ranges. That this was a washing machine that happened in here. This was literally one of the worst Bitcoin trades I've ever done. And it was a very big lesson for me in 2017. And so I know exactly what it's like emotionally to go through something like that and have that happen. And that is exactly what just happened to the market all throughout in here. So it makes sense for retail sentiment to be like that if I reflect back on myself from 2017 and how that happened to me. But now with 8+ years of experience in crypto and in Bitcoin and seeing this so many times, it doesn't have that same effect on me, but I can reflect back on it, on what it did when I was just a noob in this market. And so it does make sense for retail to have mixed emotions right in here and for why we saw such a loss of interest happening in here. But ultimately, this thing still just went on and just continued rocketing up after that. So I think we're going to have our day. Yeah, I think the cherry on top is going to be all the Bitcoin maxis. When they see XRP have its day, it structurally just looks like it's going to. But I also think Bitcoin's going to be fine in the medium term as well. But there's a little bit of shared experience for me when I've been through a correction like this, when I didn't really have the emotional toolkit to handle that, how it happened to me. This is the most memorable correction of all of them. You know, we had a big one after that, but even then, I had already learned my lesson. I remember when it was down to $3,000. I was like in the middle of the night. I'm watching the 1 minute chart. I'm like, here we go, 3,000, here we go. Unlike in this one, having not learned my lesson yet. We had not had that big of a correction yet. And it just seemed to me like it was over, but learned a valuable lesson very quickly. And for a lot of the people who are just kind of fly by night, come in and out of the market, that one would have done that to them. So things are traversing just fine. We're right on time. We're right on cue. Stock market's looking good. S&P, NASDAQ. And the day it seems like we're coming to an end in here, we'll stop talking about it in a ranging context, and we'll start talking about surge inbound, moon boots, rocket ships galore. And if you're tired of hearing about this range, trust me, I'm tired of talking about it. I look forward to that day. I can't wait. So great day over there in the stock market. Crypto's green today, coming off of last week's geopolitical scare. And if you kind of followed it throughout the weekend, it definitely escalated all weekend long. But stock market opening, massive recovery. Range continues. XRP, $2.28 right now. Still turning along just fine. We're all just waiting for those signatures to show up to say that the range is going to break. Till then, we'll keep traversing it together. And then when those signatures show up, we'll navigate it along the way. Till then, I talk all about it over here in the newsletter over at blockchainbacker.substack.com, which was posted yesterday morning. It includes a 22-minute audio recording, which goes right along with the newsletter. There's a link down here in the description of this video to blockchainbacker.substack.com. Got some green to start the week off. We'll see how the range goes. Until then, I'll catch you in the next one. That's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.